Stevie Fernandez, director, filmmaker, and comedian, and writer,
Yeah,
and like pretty much, I think you've had every job in the industry, probably.
yeah, probably. I started out. I was went to school in Texas at the University of Texas, and they had a their own PBS TV station on campus,
Okay.
and you couldn't be part of the crew unless you were a senior, and I begged and begged and begged to be part of the thing, and eventually I got to be on Austin City Limits, which my job was, just dragging cables and but watching great stars perform. And one of my favorites was BB King,
You
and
got to watch BB King.
yeah, like in a small theater atmosphere, and he was just so amazing. And one of the things that set him apart to me from all the other artists was that. Um, Usually, because back then we had like three-quarter tapes and there was a reel, and like half the show would be taped, and then they'd have to take a break to change out the tapes. And all the other artists would go and, have a cigarette or get a drink or freshen up or whatever. BB didn't. He kept a show going because he knew, and I asked him this afterwards, after, he had met and greeted everybody, and I went up to him, I said, most people take a break. Why did you keep going? Baby, I got to keep the action flowing. I got to keep the energy going, and that's what he did. He did, like, throughout the whole changing of the tapes. He kept playing or telling jokes and stories, and just kept the show going throughout. And it was really an amazing and wonderful lesson that I got to learn about entertaining.
Yeah, that you keep working hard even when the cameras aren't rolling.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
what a great lesson to learn at that age too. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really
So
cool.
let's skip ahead and then we'll go back a bit because the reason that you're on the show today is for a couple reasons. First of all, we got to talk to him about the movie that he filmed here in Sapulpa.
Yeah. Three of
Um,
them.
yeah, three of them. But primarily, we're talking about the live comedy show that he's bringing to Sapulpa this weekend. It's called Being Grandparents, and this is a show that you do with your wife,
You're
and
right.
right. And
Yeah.
how long have you been doing this thing?
Well, we started a podcast in 2020 because a client had asked me, "How do you do a podcast?" And I said, "I don't know. Let me go ask my wife." And because
Because
she
she's a
listened to them, all of them. She'd never podcast, but she had
okay.
listened to a bunch of them. And I said, how do you? I wonder how you do it. We should do one. She, oh, let's do a murder mystery. And I said, oh yeah. Nothing says family show like grandma solving, homicides between naps. And so I said, no, you have to read stuff. We'd have to call people. Let's just do something about what we know. And we were expecting grandkids at the time. And so we decided on doing being grandparents because I don't know, how old are you?
I'm 42.
42. You
I'm not a
got how many,
grandparent.
how many kids you have?
I have two. My oldest is 16, so it should be a while before I'm a
Yeah,
grandparent.
yeah. So, what we found was that the generations had different ideas of what they expected from grandparents because my two of our daughter-in-laws, they wanted us to take CPR classes and get vaccinations, and I never asked my dad to do any of that stuff. His idea of a first aid was work it out, walk it off, and
Rub some dirt on it.
yeah. And so we decided to start this to try to merge the generations. And it was at first just kind of a lark, kind of for fun. We did maybe 6 episodes that first year. And then we started getting emails from all over the world from people who wanted to be on the show. One of them was a professor at Harvard who had written a book about raising kids, another professor in Australia, somebody who wrote a movie, just tons and tons of people. And I thought, why? We just did this and it was fun. Come to find out, when I did a search, that we showed up on about two or three digital magazines as the best podcast to listen to for parents and grandparents, and
No kidding.
yeah, in the top 10 as one of the best in the top 10, and one of them was FeedSpot, which now we're number 3. And it turns out the podcast is listened to in 79 countries in over 1,700 cities and throughout the world. And So it's just pretty crazy.
Wow. Now I've seen portions of this, and I mean, there's not like a lot of science or magic behind it, right? I mean, I think you guys are just kind of
Yeah, well, we do a little research,
experimental.
but we're mostly just talking about what we've read about,
Yeah.
and then kind of throwing in some humor and just our own personalities lend itself to being kind of fun and funny and some like walk away every now and then with learning something.
So, do you think that that's the format that folks can expect when they come to the theater on Friday or Saturday when the show happens?
Yeah, except we're revving it up with a little
Oh,
more funny. We
okay.
got a lot more funny going on, and I'll go up at first to kind of warm the crowd up and do, oh, maybe like 15 minutes of some of my stand up and have a good time with that while she's getting ready, and then she'll come out and we'll do more comedy all together, from talking about grandkid sleepovers to grand pets, and because we have 13 of those. We only have 5 grandkids, but we had 13 grandpets. And
13 grandpets. Your grandpets like are twice as many as your grandkids.
right, yeah.
Holy cow.
And then we have, we just talk about a little bit about our relationship, because this is we're a melded family.
Hmm.
We've been married over 14 years, and how we met and how we got together and things, even, because there are a lot of people that are like us now that are in their second or even third marriages and have these melded families and grandkids that grow. And my brother and his wife, they have um, 12 grandkids now, that because all of their kids want more kids than my kids do. But
Is this the same situation? Is that a blended family also?
yeah, they've got 7 kids together, as do we. But like I said, their kids are more wanting more kids than ours do. So
Who got remarried first between you and your brother? I'm curious if you guys are having some kind of a competition or something to see who can have the most kids.
he did, because he's on his third wife. I'm only on my second,
Okay,
and
all right.
I'm pretty much I'm going to land. This is it. This is. I don't think I want to go through that dating process again. And we kind of talk about dating as grandparents, and stuff like that, and how you had to. Because when I first started dating, my oldest granddaughter, she was probably 6, maybe, and so at that time we'd go places or the mall or stuff, and I'd have to try to convince her not to call me grandpa, maybe just call me dad or something, and so that if I met somebody. And then at one time we were at the Disney store, and I started talking to a woman, and she had a kid about the same age. Uh, and so, I said, "Oh, okay, because she was pretty nice and enjoyed her company. And how do we go further?" And then she said, "Grandpa," and it was over.
Was that the end of it?
And
I'm sorry.
that's all right. I'm
That's
married to a
that's
wonderful,
completely
wonderful
foreign to
woman
me.
now. So,
Man, so I did watch a little bit of your stand up yesterday, and I saw where you were talking about all the kids that you had
right.
since you got married.
Yeah.
And is it true that like the first, like you had two planned babies, and then
2 plan, 1 pill baby, and a vasectomy baby. Yeah. And three step kids.
I just remember you said that you were so relieved.
Yeah, I was so relieved when my wife hit menopause, because, whew, man, dodged that bullet. And one time we were sitting around, and her and I are so happy together. And I thought, man, if we'd only met 10 years earlier, think of all we could have built together and how much more joy we'd have had. And then I was like, wait a minute. Then all the kids would have been living here. We might not have made it, 7 kids living here.
So how many kids do you have living with you now? Any of them?
We have one.
Okay.
She's autistic, so she's high functioning. So she has a little job at McDonald's, and oh man, she works 3 days a week, 6 hours a day, and you think, oh, and she brings us some funny, because like she'll like, if we have like the internet, sometimes you have a little brownout and the internet messes up or restarts, and she'll text me and say that the internet isn't working right. And Deanne will ask me, well, who is that? What is that? Oh, it's a tenant and 2B. They said the internet isn't working. She could have came upstairs and told us, but
The
no,
Peanut and
she
TV.
texts us. Yeah,
She's texting you in the house.
yeah, in the house. Hey, you got my landlord's. You do something about this, and so that's part of being parents and grandparents. And throughout time, we've had different ones of them end up coming and living with us for a little while. Maybe it's a breakup or they moved back home from having a job away and they're going through transitions. And one of them was when we first got together. Deanne's middle daughter moved in with us after a big breakup, so it was devastatingly,
Uh-huh.
throughout the whole time. And I come home from work and she's sitting in my chair. And I told her, hey, that's my chair. And she's like, oh, I didn't know we had chairs. And I said, yeah, you see, out there by the mailbox, all the way to the back of the wall on the fence, that's all my space. And I'm just letting you come use some of ours, but not that chair,
Not
not
that
that
chair.
chair. That chair has designed because it had optimal direction for the remote, so it worked properly, and you could get the best picture on the TV.
Yeah, without the glare.
Right, right, exactly. And
Now is she acclimated to that now? Now she understands that's your chair and don't sit in your
well,
spot.
she moved out.
Oh, that's how bad she took it. She's like, if I can sit in this chair, I'm not staying in.
She stayed for like I don't know. It was almost two. It seems a lot longer to me than it was to her, I guess, when I say the story. So I think it's like 2 years. Just she's recently got married last summer and found her someone she's really likes, and it's all working out for
Oh,
her.
good. That's good to hear.
Yeah, she
Um,
had one guy who I called him Rip Van Winkle. He didn't like that because
where did he sleep a lot?
he would fall asleep and not be there like for her dates, with like a couple of their dates. He missed her college graduation because he was asleep, and so he wasn't gonna make it. But
That's not who she's with now.
no, no,
Okay.
no.
So, wonder if there's some medical marijuana going on.
I don't know what
That's fine.
his deal
Uh,
was, but well, he worked a lot. He worked. I think it was like at Quick Trip and did a lot of their stocking and
oh, he
rebuilding
worked
and
overnight
stuff.
or something
So
like the
I think
graveyard
maybe
shift kind of stuff.
sometimes, yeah.
Okay. Well, now I feel bad. But oh well, guys, we got the code up right now. If you're liking what you're hearing here, you want to hear more of it, come to the show. It's happening this Friday and Saturday at the Sapulpa Community Theater. And if you put in the discount code grandparents on checkout, then you'll get your ticket for free. So we would really love to pack the place out. This is actually going to be a little bit different than just about any show we've ever done there. Not only is it live comedy, but you're going to be recording this, right?
Right, we're recording it because one, it'll help us, show other places, bookers, and things that that here's our show, here's what we do, and it's a good clean act.
Hmm.
So we'd love to do it wherever they are, and that's how they get booked. Another is that our agent told us that she thinks she can get us on Dry Bar or Angel Studios. Whoever, if you're not familiar with that,
I'm
it's just
familiar.
it's a place where a lot of just really clean acts are
Yeah.
performed, and it's just really fun and funny, and so we're excited about that. So we're trying to get, we need your help to come in and laugh and have a good time, so we can make it look really good on video, and it'd be kind of our little ticket to. And one of the reasons that we chose Sapulpa to record this and show it off is because of the movies, and everybody here has been so helpful and friendly, and we thought it'd be kind of a little gift, and also that we would get some good support from everybody who would come out and laugh at us. I know it sounds bad because people don't normally want to be laughed at, but that's like,
That's what you need.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's what
we
I
need
want.
that.
That's what
Come
I
on and
like.
please
Yeah.
laugh at us.
Yeah, I remember one time when I was doing stand up years ago. I did stand up for a long time, ever since college, and toured mainly throughout the Southwest and opened for guys like Ron White and um,
Oh, did you really?
yeah, and Larry the Cable Guy, Rodney Carrington, Carlos Mencia, Tommy Chong, just all the lots and lots of people who are famous. But I didn't make it because I decided I wanted to. I got divorced at the time, and I
Hmm.
didn't want to travel anymore, and I wanted to be there for my kids.
Okay.
And that's when I did more radio and television here in the area. But so uh, doing that, you do stand up, and it was funny things happen. Like one time, I'm standing in line at the grocery store, and this lady ahead of me just starts laughing at me, and I'm like, what did I do?
Just
And
stand up.
yeah, yeah. And she goes, I saw your show last week, and you were hilarious, And then she starts talking about some of the bits, and that's just fun. And because we talked about earlier before we went on about I used to host a show called Explore Tulsa.
Yeah, that's actually what I know you from
Uh-huh.
most before now. Now I know you personally, but
Yeah, and I did that show for 7 years, I think it was, and people would still they do, but when it was going on, they would stop me all the time and say how much they enjoyed the show, and
Mhm.
they would even say that we put you on my DVR so we could watch it, and I was like, man, that's like the biggest compliment ever because somebody is saving space for you on their DVR,
Right.
Seinfeld, Explore Tulsa, and so it was.
Yeah, it's all the same. It's the same.
So it was
That'd be
great.
terrible if they were like, "Well, I had to remove you off the DVR because we had that new episode of
Oprah.
Yellowstone
Yeah.
or Oprah or something coming up," and then missed my chance. But well, so let's go back to that for just a minute though, because I do want to talk a little bit about, especially, so we haven't known each other long. I just met you over the summer,
Right.
and thanks to the fact that you were bringing movies into Sapulpa, and you filmed, you said three of them
Yeah.
now. So let's start with the first one, I think, because we'll just go in order here. So was the first one the one that featured Zoltan?
Yeah. Yeah. That was called WWJR, and When Will Jesus Return?
Uh-huh.
And there's a great story, but I also wanted to make sure that I mention I have partners in these movies. Right now, our executive producers are Dr. Mark and Dr. Michelle Sherwood
Sherwood, yeah.
with the Functional Medical Institute, and they've started like Sherwood Films, and they really help us. They saw the vision, and we started working together to make all these happen, and now we have 7 films that we've done together. And When Will Jesus Return is probably one of my absolute favorites because Zoltan Cassis, he's just this amazing young comedian. He was recently in Tulsa at Bricktown Comedy
I saw
Club.
that.
Yeah,
I was kind of mad that I didn't know about that ahead of time. I
yeah,
wanted to see
yeah.
that.
We went, and it was great to see him, and a lot of fun. And he's just absolutely hilarious. And you could see some of his specials on YouTube and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Well, did he start on Dry Bar? I'm pretty sure I've seen him on Dry Bar.
Dry Bar was one of the first. Well, it wasn't the first place I saw him. This is kind of funny story because when we were casting When Will Jesus Return, it was kind of around 2020 with COVID and everything.
Mhm.
So a lot of the comedians weren't getting booked as much as there weren't many places to play.
Right.
And uh, we went on Dry Bar because we were looking for somebody, clean comedians, to play a couple of parts in the movie. One of them is a good friend of mine that I knew from when I first started doing comedy, William Lee Martin, and
Yeah.
he does shows around here and sells them out, and
He's
he's
in that
very
show
funny.
Oprah. He's in that
Yeah,
movie
yeah,
Oprah.
he's in
Yeah.
the movie, and he used to go by the handle of Cowboy Bill, and
Yep.
so he still sometimes wears his cowboy hat, and he has a little charity he works with, but he's in the movie, and Zoltan, we saw him actually when my daughter turned 21. We all went to a comedy show, and I think that was at the Looney Bin at the time, and he was the middle act. So he wasn't the headliner then; he was the middle act, and he was funnier than everybody else. And I remember one thing in specific, when we started talking to him about the role, we said, "We think we've seen you before." But even before Dry Bar, and I remembered one bit in specific that he did where he was talking about when he would go to Starbucks and they'd write his name on the cup, and like he'd have to tell him Zoltan, and they'd look at him weird, like what is that? Like that little wizard in the thing what tells your future,
From
and
the movie Big or whatever it is.
right, right, yeah. And so, but he's really great in that movie. It's one of my favorite. We shot it at a little church that I think is at Park and Bryan.
Yeah,
Is that
Park
right?
and Bryan is that church. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And the funny thing about that was that I, I don't know where everybody is in their faith and in Christianity or whatever, but I believe and that God intervenes in our lives all the time, and you just have to be watching for it. And I called a realtor that I saw these churches that I kind of liked that looked like what I was looking for.
Hmm.
And I told her what we were trying to do, and we were making this movie. When will Jesus return? It's kind of like a nowadays version of Oh God. Do you remember that movie?
I've heard of it,
Yeah,
and I
like
remember
in
that
the
being
late
mentioned.
70s, and it had George Burns and John Denver in it. And it's really funny, and I always loved that movie. And the concept of God actually coming and talking to you personally,
Hmm.
and because I really believe he does. And sometimes we just don't hear, we don't listen to him. Anyway, the realtor says, let me call this person, that has this beautiful little church that I think is perfect by your description. She calls the woman who owns that church at Park and Bryan and says, these guys want to rent out the church for like 3 or 4 weeks and shoot this movie. And she said, well, and she told her that it was like, oh God, that they're trying to recreate. And she said, okay, well, let me pray on it and I'll get back to you. And the realtor hangs up the phone. And then the lady goes to turn on the TV, and Oh God was playing.
It's big coincidence. Yeah, that sounds
So
like divine
she
intervention to me.
immediately calls the realtor, says, okay, we're in. And as is the greatest, I love that story.
Yeah, thank God she was paying attention there, man. And she wasn't willing to just write that off as just a big coincidence. She saw that as a sign, like, no,
Yeah,
we need to do this.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's awesome. Well, so one of my favorite scenes in there is Jesus and what is the main character's name in that movie? Do you remember?
Uh, Lazarus.
Yeah, that's right.
Laz.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Laz. And they're playing pickleball in
Yeah.
in the parking lot across the street over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty funny. And it's just weird because being from Sapulpa, I recognize the background and the church and everything else. And I'm just thinking, like, I probably drove by when they were filming that,
Probably,
and because I take that road all the time. And man, so that was good. And then yeah,
that one won us a bunch of film festival awards.
did it really?
Yeah, and
Yay.
it's in a lot of places. And like I said, you can watch it on OK Movie Stream. That's our platform, or it's on Tubi. You can watch it on Tubi if that's something that you use, and there's lots of other ones out there too.
Okay. And then you said that was the first one, but you also filmed the one that actually you were just talking about this yesterday. It's on Apple TV now, right?
Right, we shot a few scenes from this movie called Wealthy Soul. Got released on Tuesday, November 4th. It you can rent or purchase there, and it's a heartfelt uh, drama. I think that in Tulsa we hear about it all the time about the homeless, and
Hmm. Hmm.
and I remember that one time not that long ago, my dad and I were driving around 'cause he lives in the Houston area running errands, and there was a guy standing on the corner at one shopping center and rolls down his window, gives him some money, and then he tells me, he says, well, I got some unexpected cash and I thought I'd share it as many people as I can. And my dad's 85, and he still every day it goes and helps out in feeding people in need with his church and stuff. And
Wow.
so then and I don't know if you remember, there was a story a few years ago about a guy who was homeless, and he was standing on a corner, and a guy that was a videographer happened to see him, and his sign said, that he had this golden voice.
I do remember that the guy with the golden voice,
Yeah,
radio
yeah,
voice.
yeah.
Yeah,
And his name's Ted Williams,
that's
not
right.
like the baseball player, but he does this golden voice thing. And apparently he had some pretty big radio jobs, but lost them due to addiction, and
Hmm.
had been homeless for quite some time. And this person records him. It blows up the internet. He ends up on Good Morning America and stuff like
Wow.
that. And now he's written a book. He's a public speaker. He was back on the radio the last I checked. And so I thought, if there's one, there's got to be more. And that's where we kind of came up with the idea for Jack Miller, the surgeon, in our movie Wealthy Soul.
Okay, and it's kind of the same idea where he goes around helping homeless folks specifically, or
Well,
Anybody?
he's trying to find himself because his wife dies of a sudden heart attack.
Okay.
They're out camping, so he can't get help. And then he almost loses a woman on the table. And then he just walks away from everything.
Wow.
And in his journey, he does end up helping people, like a little boy who's choking on some bubble gum or something, and he gives him a Heimlich, and he doesn't say anything, but he leaves a little Bible passage for the mom. And other main character, played by Mark Sherwood, he saves him because of what happened to his wife. He carries like a mini defibrillator, and he's able to save him long enough for EMS to arrive and resuscitate him. And so he does a lot of that, throughout the movie, helping and saving people. And then the family of Mark's characters start searching for him so they can give him some kind of reward or help him out. And the movie plays out like that.
Okay, cool. Well, you got to be sure to go and see that. That's you can find it on Apple TV.
Yep.
And is it anywhere else or is that it?
Right now, it's just on Apple. We
Okay.
decided to focus
Well,
just on that.
yeah, go check it out there. Now, the other movie, and kind of the main one that we wanted to get to, is called Forgotten Fortunes.
Right?
And you filmed that right here in Sapulpa. In fact, I think you filmed the majority of it here, if I'm not,
Yeah.
is that
Yeah,
right?
I think we almost all of it. The only part we didn't film was at Dr. Mark's place. He's, their practice.
Okay. And that one actually is about to have the premiere next month, I think, right? Isn't that coming?
December 5th, Friday, December 5th. Tickets we're just asking for a donation. And you can go to forgottenfortune.org, and there's links to get it. And it includes like a dinner, and we have it at the Renaissance Hotel in Tulsa.
Okay.
It's really a great fun time. Many of the actors that are in the movie will be there to
Okay.
take pictures and sign off autographs, including Lou Ferrigno.
He will be there?
Yeah,
Oh,
he's going to
nice.
be there. So you've got to come. Also, who's in the movie that will be there is Micah.
Yes.
Micah plays.
Am I in the movie though?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
sure if
We
I
haven't,
missed
I haven't gotten completely to your scene yet, so I can't tell you how much of it, but because we're still in editing. We're down to the last probably 4 or 5 scenes. But Micah plays a police officer in the movie, and I think he says freeze or something. But
I'm supposed to. I screwed that. This is my first time ever. You gave me one word to say and I butchered it. It was terrible.
but it's a really fun. It's kind of like, if you want to think of it, it's kind of a little bit like the combination of the Odd Couple, the guys, Jack Lemmon and
Yeah.
I can't remember
Walter Matthau?
Walter Matthau.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what we did is Lou Ferrigno and Jimmy J.J. Walker. Obviously, Lou Ferrigno
Dynamite.
from The Incredible Hulk, and Jimmy J.J. Walker from Good Times, and both. And when we went to cast it, Mark Sherwood, they have a relationship with Lou. They met through Kevin Sorbo, and
Okay.
and so they met Lou, and they had brought him in for a speaking engagement, and he was just really a lot of fun to hang out with. And we shared the script with him, and he really liked it and wanted to play that part. And we thought, well, who could we play against him? And one of the who I kind of wrote the movie for was an actor here, that he's from Oklahoma, and he's been in a lot of stuff. He had speaking roles in Tulsa King, and also Jesus Revolution,
Hmm.
and that movie, Killers of the Flower Moon. And so he's really been in a ton of stuff. Brian Shoup.
Brian, yeah.
And then we added Lou. And then I thought, well, who else could we play that might be from that era that people would relate to? And then we called Jimmy's agent, and he was excited to do it. And so it was a lot of fun to shoot, having those guys together, listening to them tell stories about other famous people, um, and they just did a really great job. It's kind of a murder mystery comedy,
Hmm.
in that Brian plays a mailman who is starting to have onset dementia, and he sometimes will go run his own old mail route because he forgets he's retired sometimes. and he witnesses a murder, but nobody believes him because they know he has dementia.
Right.
Also in the movie, he had invested a lot of his retirement into, remember when GameStop took off and
Yeah.
made we call it Game Shop in the movie, and he makes like over $2.5 million, but he can't find the paperwork
Oh no.
that wherever he put the money, and so throughout the movie he's looking for that and trying to solve a murder and with his buddies Jimmy and Lou, and so and when you meet Lou, whatever you do, just don't upset him because you know what happens.
Yeah, when he gets
Yeah,
angry, yes. Don't want to make him
no,
angry. Well, I did want to ask too, because you've been in this industry for a long time and stuff, and it was so cool for me to be able to meet, somebody like Lou Ferrigno and then finding out all the stuff that Brian had been in and getting to interview them both for the Sapulpa Times was awesome. But I would imagine you've probably been around characters like that quite a bit.
yeah, a lot from I've been really fortunate throughout my career that I've my career includes comedy, radio, television, and I worked in Dallas. I've worked for CBS, Disney, ABC, all the big ones,
Wow.
and not only as talent but as management and marketing specialists, and they've sent me all over the country, to learn things, and so I have met, like when I worked in Dallas, I met like a lot of the Dallas Cowboys, and one time, this is kind of funny. I was I was also doing this thing called, just to make some extra money on the weekends. I would do this thing called, you know how you have go to driving school to get out of a ticket.
Yeah.
These guys I knew had started this thing called the Comedy Defensive Driving School, and they would
Okay.
train comedians. So we wrote a curriculum that the state approved that had a bunch of jokes and a lot of our jokes, and we would teach people, defensive driving class, but it was called comedy defensive driving. And I
And it
thought, man, if I can make people laugh at 9 a.m. on a Saturday who don't want to be there, then I can use that bit, and
and that was legitimately sanctioned by the state
right.
and could be used to get out of a ticket.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
You just in Texas, you only had to go to a training session for like 3 or 4 days, and then you had to student teach for a few classes, and then you got certified. In Oklahoma, you have to have a associate's degree in law enforcement to be able to uh, uh, teach defensive driving here. When at least when I moved over here,
Are you
and
being serious?
yeah, yeah,
My gosh.
and
Okay.
because I thought, well, I'll start it over here, but then I can't go to school that long, and so so when I was there, I noticed because I was a huge fan of Roger Staubach, and I read his book. The book's about his life and stuff. And in my class was one of his daughters, and I recognized her name. And during a break, I went and asked her, "Are you Roger Staubach's daughter?" And she was like, "Well, yeah, but please don't say anything because, for one, she was going like over 100 miles an hour when she got caught speeding." And I said, "Yeah, no, I was just curious. Did you ever sit around with your dad and watch old game films and ask him, what was going on what was he thinking when he did this play? Because that's what I would have done."
Right.
And she goes like, "No, I was like 6, So she only knew the billionaire dad, not the Dallas Cowboy dad.
Okay.
And so that was great. And I worked also with a guy who went by the name of Redbeard on the air, and he had a show called In the Studio, and he interviewed every major classic rock star that you could imagine, and they would come into our studio, and you get to meet them, and like um, what is his name from Fleetwood Mac? He was really tall. Maybe it was Lindsay. I can't remember. Anyway, one of the speakers in the studio he had signed because he kept hitting his head on it. And so I met a lot of those people. And when I did comedy, I really met that's when I really met the stars I mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
and even more people that I got to meet. That was pretty crazy. One time I got to open. This was when I thought I had made it. I was because at the radio station nobody really liked going up and introducing acts, but I did because I'd go up and do a little stand up and make people laugh, and then introduce the acts. And so one of the so they always picked me to go do it because nobody else wanted to. And one of the acts that I introduced, the Beach Boys, at the Texas State Fair. So I got to meet them beforehand, and there were so many people. There was like people that were like you couldn't even see the end of the people because there were so many
It's a
there to
big
see
crowd
them.
there.
Yeah, and that was just a blast. And I remember afterwards, my ex-wife, she said to me, because I went up with the Miller Lite girls, and one of them was talking to me backstage, and she said, "That girl's hitting on you." And it's what? No, she's like, way younger than me. And she goes, "No, she's hitting on you." And I said, "You know what? She wouldn't even have to. If she showed me her checkbook and it was balanced, I'm hers. She wouldn't even have to take her clothes off or anything. I'm just her." But so that same day, I introduced the Beach Boys, and then I had to be in Fort Worth later to introduce Three Dog Night at their show at one of the arenas there. And so that's what, wow, man, I felt like, I was halfway famous because
Halfway,
yeah.
almost. Yeah. Man, still, of course, I mean, that's the position I would love to be in. That's why you're here. You were just a path to meet Lupo. That's all. Not really, no,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess.
I got to be in other movies. I was in uh, the JFK with Kevin Costner.
You were in that movie?
I was in that movie. I'm an extra in one of the scenes, but and really in the scene that they shot on Commerce Street. And I tell everybody I had a bigger role because they shot this. Like they first of all they closed Commerce Street for like 2 weeks, and we would just over and over shooting the Zapruder film. You'd see the motorcade come through and it turn, and then you'd hear the gunshot, and you'd run, and it was like it was so surreal. It was really like being there. And I tell people that I had a better position, was going to be on camera and everything, but the more we shot that, I ran over and I kept saving JFK because I knew it was going to happen. Pull him out of
They
the
eventually
motorcade.
cut you out.
Yeah, I was in a Treat Williams movie called The Final Verdict. That was I was a featured extra in that one, so I was pretty excited. You see me in a scene where it's based like in the 20s or 30s or something like back then. So we had like wear period clothes. You showed up on set like 5:30 in the morning. It was in
Ooh,
downtown Houston, and they cut your hair and put you all in your period garb, and you're waiting and waiting for them to get the lights right and do everything for hours. And then they bring in all of us extras to double check focus and the lights. And
mm-hmm.
that's still when the cameras were pretty big and the lights were pretty hot. And uh, we're shooting, and they go around at each person at the table, and I'm one of those people, and I introduce them who's at the card table, what their name and their background and their thing. And my scene, I'm there holding my cards. I take a puff of my cigarette and I hit a shot of whiskey. And I'm kind of allergic to cigarette smoke though, so my eyes kept watering, and they said, just leave the cigarette in the thing." And so I took a shot of whiskey, and they shot that like 12 different times. Of course, it's just tea, but when we were done, I really needed to pee. And
Of course.
so you wait months and months and months to see if I was in it. I still have it. I need to post it up somewhere.
Yeah,
And
I have to go see this now, and I'll be looking for you next time I watch JFK too.
yeah, yeah,
So that's awesome, though. Well, I'm going to put the code up there one more time. Guys, if you guys are interested in coming to see this show, please come support everything that Stevie and his wife are trying to do here. This is going to be a hilarious show. I think you got a good taste of that today. So, but Stevie, thanks for coming on the show, man. I really
absolutely. I
appreciate it.
promise you it's going to be a lot of fun. I like to think of it like a support group for parents and grandparents. So, but funnier. So,
Funny, you're right.
yeah.
And you said something like a laugh with every wrinkle or something
Yeah,
like that. Is
yeah,
that how it is?
yeah.
It's going to be a good time. I may not be able to relate as much, but I'll definitely be there on Saturday. So looking forward to seeing it. It's going to be a great time. So you guys don't forget to use that promo code grandparents at checkout. You get your ticket completely free. Come and pack out the house and help Stevie and Deanne
Deanne, yeah.
get on Dry Bar or VidAngel or however you want to do it. So looking forward to it. Thanks a lot, man. We
Yeah,
appreciate it.
thanks for having us.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning into the show today. I'll see you again on Free Coffee Friday, where we talk about all things happening in the town that we love. Have a great Wednesday, everybody. Bye bye.